We saw almost instantly the Houthis in Yemen being declared to be non-enemy combatants, non-terrorists. That in and of itself created a substantial problem for Saudi Arabia, particularly the management of its southern border. That also furthered the complications that now exist with Israel concerning proxies of Iran that function with the sole purpose of eliminating the Jewish state. You have the United States of America refusing to provide very important military assets to Israel in the name of supporting Ukraine. Case in point, Israel made a request for several air refuelers in which the United States of America said, sorry, Boeing's too busy doing other things. You have the United States of America wanting to give Patriot missile technology that oftentimes is comprised or associated with the Iron Dome to Ukraine, even at the risk of Israeli national security. The flashbang regime insists that rightfully owned assets by a sovereign nation be yielded to a terrorist organization through the proxy of Beirut in order to make a peace that will never be made, only to arm the enemies of all of the Middle East, which is Iran. You have the United States, who then chooses to engage Iranian drones over eastern Syria, which then produces potentially another international incident with Russia, further complicating relations with Israel regarding sovereign territory. You have a matter of the Golan Heights, where several drones are being sent out by Iran in an attempt to produce a hostile military action against a sovereign territory, a sovereign nation. Israel responds in self-defense. Even when Damascus doesn't speak up, the president of the United States speaks up and says, back off. Almost as though Israel does not have the right to defend herself. Then you have a series of decisions that are made that continue to tie the hands of Bibi Netanyahu and his Knesset to be able to do the things that they need to do in order to ensure the national security of their nation. And then, for a cherry on top, before I get into this subject, the President of the United States gets asked if it is on the agenda of his regime to invite Bibi to Washington, and he basically says not anytime soon.
Are you inviting the Prime Minister Netanyahu to the White House, sir?
No.
Will be coming to Washington?
Not in the near term.
With an arrogant, proud smirk on his face, almost like he got away with some other corrupt action. The reality of the condition that we are facing right now in the United States of America centers around its willful decision to embrace sin. It centers around the spiritual leaders who have allowed themselves to tolerate that sin. And then it goes to the speaking of how the United States of America has treated the nation of Israel. It's not a coincidence that America is getting worse. It's not a coincidence that America continues to be cursed. It's not a coincidence that we continue to see terrible and horrible decisions being made across the country. And it's not a coincidence that the tolerance that continues to be exemplified by people who call themselves spiritual leaders is the greatest and single most contributory variable to the destruction of the nation in which we are living.